Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Q&A podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, and with me today is the handsome Irishman, Pat Fitzmaurice, and today we're going to take your questions. That's right, all the Fantasy Pros are here to help you figure out some of these hard questions that are racking your brains right now. There's a lot of news going on, a lot of football that's being played, but it's preseason football, so it doesn't matter that much. But if you've got questions, we've got answers. So drop them here in the chat. Our buddy John is producing today. We're so proud of John. This is his first live stream. So everybody, I want you to shout out John, give him some clapping emojis, all kinds of fun emojis. It's all about the emojis here, Pat Fitzmaurice. And Fitz, my first question to you, basically, we finished the show yesterday and then all the running backs decided to sign after I made some quips about them on the mock draft. So Ezekiel Elliott is in New England and Dalvin Cook is in New York. What are your thoughts on these two guys, the landing spot, and what it means about Hall and Stevenson, if anything?
Isn't that funny, Joe, how we waited weeks for the dominoes to fall with the unsigned veteran free agent running backs, and all of a sudden, two of them in a span of about 2 hours announced. Yeah. So, I guess we'll take it chronologically and go with the Zeke signing first, since he was announced first. So last year, Rhamondre had 59% of the Patriots' 356 running back carries. And I think we're probably going to see something pretty similar. We know that Zeke, who was once a good pass catcher, completely, they stopped throwing to him last year. I think his utility as a pass catcher had pretty much shriveled on the vine by last year. So the one thing Zeke is still really good at doing, though, is punching in short yardage touchdowns. And our friend Ian Hartitz over at Fantasy Life had a tweet where he pointed out that for running backs last year, touchdown rate on carries inside the 5-yard line, Zeke was, I believe, fourth best in the NFL at 56.3%, and Rhamondre was around 29%. So I think one of the things Zeke is going to be is the goal line back. Mm-hmm. And while I don't think he's necessarily going to put a bigger dent into Rhamondre's yardage total than Damian Harris did last year, I do think he could potentially poach some touchdowns, steal the thunder as far as Rhamondre's pure upside. So whereas before I had Rhamondre as maybe a mid-range RB1 type, I think now he's kind of RB12, low-end RB1. And Zeke, I've got him ranked RB47. I think he'll probably outkick that and mostly do it with touchdown related value. But the thing is, do I want to be guessing about when Zeke is going to get into the end zone? I really don't, because if he doesn't get into the end zone, you're probably going to be left with a lot of 8 carry for 31-yard days, and those don't do you much good.
No, not excited about that at all. Dalvin Cook, obviously, Breece Hall coming off of that knee surgery. I know a lot of people were optimistic that everything would be, guns a-blazing here by the time we got into preseason, but it really hasn't been the case. He did get activated off the pup, but it does seem like they are being very careful, which makes a lot of good long-term sense. But let's be honest, the Jets have put all their chips in the middle. They're trying to win now. And it seems like Dalvin Cook, at least early on, is a guy, dare I say, you take the value on Cook and then look to trade him maybe a month into the season as Breece Hall starts to ramp back up. Do you think that is the best strategy? Take a discount on Hall where you get it, take a discount on Cook where you get it, and then trade Cook or trade for Hall if you don't get to draft him?
It's funny you use the chips in the middle analogy, because I was about to talk about the Jets being all in. So I guess you are the Daniel Negreanu to my Phil Hellmuth today.
Well, Phil Ivey did go to my high school. Just want you to know. I never played poker with him, but he did. Yeah. So fun facts.
Probably a good thing. You would have lost your lunch money, Joe.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I do think the Jets are very much all in this season with that loaded defense they have, and now they have Aaron Rodgers, and I kind of think they just wanted to have enough at the running back position in case there were any setbacks with Hall. But the Hall injury happened, I guess, early enough in the season. Maybe it wasn't early, but at least it wasn't late. And it was a clean ACL tear and not a multi-ligament tear like Javonte Williams had or like J.K. Dobbins had a couple of years earlier. And I know the injury docs, including our own Dr. Deepak Chona, have said that for a clean ACL tear for a younger back with a good athletic profile, the rate of recovery for those guys is pretty good. So Like, I'm optimistic Hall is going to get a slow ramp up and maybe by early October be the primary guy here, and Cook maybe falls into sort of more of a pure backup role. I don't know for sure that's going to be the case. Cook's efficiency has slipped a little bit. It hasn't disappeared, but it's slipped. And I don't think there's any question who the better back is. I mean, if he hadn't gotten hurt last year, Joe, Hall is a top 5 pick in this year's drafts.
Yeah.
So like I do think eventually he's going to get to like the 60%. I want to think that. I don't know it, but I want to think
Pat.
that.
It's fascinating, and I think it's something everybody should pay very close attention to, the value of both of those guys. I think you buy on both at the right price, and I think it's going to be a discount on both because there's fear in the marketplace. But there's no fear here. It's all good feelings. Everyone's very excited. So make sure you drop your questions in the chat. We wanted to hit that important news because it all, like Pat said, was a huge flurry. It only took, an hour for both guys to sign, an hour and, 6 months, it feels like. So, great. Good times. All right, let's start with Justin Sorge. Sorge, a good friend of ours over here on the channel. He says, hey, guys, thoughts on Hall versus Cook backfield? What do you think will be split in terms of, the two of those guys? So this is a perfect question here. We can talk about the early going and then later on, what round does he fall to? That's the question here in terms of both these guys. So in terms of rank adjustment, because I don't know if really quite touched on that, Pat, when you have the Breece Hall news along with Cook, where have you adjusted both of them? Have you moved Cook up, Hall down? Have you held them steady? Where are you at with your rankings? And which round really makes sense? Because I think Hall right now is probably more like a third-ish round guy, but the Cook news could even push that further.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too, Joe. Yeah. That maybe Hall could slide maybe as far as the 5th round now in drafts.
I agree. I would not be shocked.
Probably mid to late 4th is my guess in a 12-teamer that I think probably somewhere around, like the 45 range seems like where he's going to settle. So, and Cook, boy, I don't know. I mean, I think Cook probably, if I was just talking to Sam Hoppin about Samaje Perine, who's currently going in the 9th round. If Perine's going in the 9th, I think Cook with a name brand value probably goes in the 6th or 7th. I'm not sure I love him there. I just don't know if there's enough upside barring any sort of Hall re-injury. So
I'll tell you what I say, Pat, I'll throw this out there too. I kind of like it if you want to be early wide receiver build. You got to take a shot at Alvin Kamara, who's going to be suspended for a couple games. Maybe you get 3 good games out of Dalvin Cook. You kind of move him towards the back, or you trade him to the Breece Hall manager. And then if you're in a league that has maneuvers, and those leagues, the leagues you're in where people don't trade and the ones where people do, what kind of situation you're in. So if you're in a move and shaking kind of league, that sort of setup you could really benefit by if you can really harness everybody's games that they're actually playing early in the year and not so much early in the year, and be able to use guys like, Alvin Kamara as the season goes on. Let's go to another question here. This is from not to be confused with one of the great 80s bands there. Take On Me, fabulous song. Actually, I prefer the cover though by Real Big Fish. Pat, I know you're a big music guy. You on there? You agree with me that the cover of Take On Me might be better than the original? Maybe.
Absolutely. I'm a big ska guy, Joe. So I'm a Real Big Fish guy.
Oh yes. Man, a little ruder than you, a little, a little ska, a little Real Big Fish. Be good times there. All right, let's go to Ah's question. Help, need your advice. Of course you do. Here we go. So we got these 2 players and the round that they cost this person. So Jalen Hurts, 6th round keeper. Ken Walker, the 3rd in the 13th round in a 10-team league, half-point PPR. 5th pick in the draft. The roster is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts, 2 flex. So, Pat, basically we're looking here. Do you want to keep Jalen Hurts or Kenneth Walker? To me, this is really easy. It's Hurts in the 6th, and it's not close for me. Do you see this being close? I want the guy that moves the needle, not the guy who already has competition.
We're going to have to spar on this one, Joe.
Oh, let's go.
I'm a Walker guy because here's the thing. You said it's a 10-team league. There's not going to be that heated a competition for quarterbacks in a 10-team league, assuming it's not super flex, is it?
It's not super flex. 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 flex, 2 wide, half PPR. But to me, Pat, I understand what you're saying. Well, the supply and demand of quarterback is there. But you can say the same thing about running back, but we're talking about number 1 or 2 quarterback, Kenneth Walker's not sniffing number 1 or 2 running back overall. Like he ain't, I don't think he can sniff top 10 realistically, to tell you the truth, unless it was enormous attrition. So I want the needle mover guy. Why do you want Ken Walker? I'm curious. Let's go.
A 13th round price tag on a guy who I think for most people is probably ranked somewhere between high end RB2 and mid range RB2. So in the, I don't know, running back 14 to running back 18 range, depending on how concerned you are about the Zach Charbonnet threat. And I like not digging on Hurts at all. Top 3 quarterback. I think you could make the case for him being QB1 after what we saw from him last season and how well he played. But, I just think they're 8 really pretty quality quarterbacks, and then possibly 9 if Deshaun Watson can get back to where he was early in his career. And it's a 10-team league. And I think you can get one of those guys pretty easily in a 10-team draft without going too far out over your skis. So I want the harder to fill position
Okay.
at the cheaper price.
Well, I'm going to take the Skip Bayless other side of this debate here. And my whole point is this. In the 10-team league, it's harder to even separate yourself at the quarterback position. And there's only a few guys that do. I think Mahomes does. I think Allen does. I think Hurts does. Let's not forget. I mean, Lamar Jackson missed games last 2 seasons. We have Justin Fields, who everyone was super excited about. But again, style of play, frame, certainly some questions here. Offensive line continues to be a work in progress. And Joe Burrow already coming up a little lame here to start the year. So I want to lock in Jalen Hurts. The 6th round value is tremendous in the half-point PPR too, where touchdowns matter. Pat, I want the guy that controls all the touchdowns on his team. Either he's throwing touchdowns or he's rushing touchdowns for the most part. I want that dude because on a weekly basis, he's going to have a high floor and high ceiling of points, where I am kind of a Zach Charbonnet guy. Like I might take some shots later at RB. So, you got the 2 different viewpoints, one from Shannon Sharp, one from Skip Bayless, and you can decide which one you want. Let's go to Darren Johnson here. Darren just got a trade offer this morning. He's got Dalvin Cook. The person wanting to make the trade has Breece Hall, and he wants to trade Breece Hall, tries to trade him Breece Hall because he's got Dalvin Cook for Brian Robinson Jr. Our thoughts. My thoughts is stop what you're doing right now if you're listening to the stream still. And I want you to accept this trade. Getting both these guys for Brian. I mean, you can get Breece Hall for Brian Robinson Jr. Pat, this is the league that I want to be in. So the next thing, Darren, I want you to do is I want you to send me an invite so I can come join this league too, so I can get trade offers like this. Pat, am I crazy or are you hitting accept on this bad boy too?
Smash accept.
Smash it. See, I need one of those buttons. Remember those buttons from the Staples commercials? That was easy. John, get me one of those. See, what John doesn't know is on the live stream, whoever's producing it is a character. So they're working here. So they have to like bring me things, get me things, book guests. It's a whole thing. Bring me snacks sometimes. So John, I wish you get me one of those buttons. I don't know if they still make them. I'm sure you can find one on eBay or something like that. So we'll continue to get your questions. Again, if you got questions, we've got answers. Drop them in the chat. In the meantime, we've also got fun giveaways. You see that little bad boy in the corner over there here, right next to my my shiny bald head? We're giving away a Jackson Smith and Jigba jersey, number 11. Look at that. That is badass right there. And you'd say to yourself, hey, I want that. How do I get that? And Uncle Joe's going to tell you how. It's real easy. All you got to do, subscribe to the YouTube channel here at Fantasy Pros. Click that little bell till it goes ding for notifications. Like the stream. That's very important. We have very fragile egos here. You got to like the stream. And drop a comment, question below. And just like that, you're entered to win. But you got to click the bell so we can notify you when you win this bad boy. Look at that, Jackson Smith and Jigba. And it's signed, not by Pat Fitzmaurice or myself. It's actually signed by our producer, John. No, it's signed by Jackson Smith and Jigba. Don't worry. We get all authentic things here. And that's a sexy jersey. By the way, Pat, have you seen the throwback Seahawks jerseys they're wearing this year? Mighty, mighty sexy as well. I like those.
Love those.
Days of Steve Largent and Dave Craig and all those guys. I'm dating myself, but that's okay. All right, let's get to another one here. Let's get to Lloyd Scheutz. That's a great last name, Lloyd Scheutz. It sounds like a character from a Mel Brooks movie. Hey guys, in PPR, would you draft Rhamondre Stevenson in the 3rd round if you could pick up Elliott? Listen, don't worry about this handcuff thing. We just did a microcast. It's going to be released sometime, in the middle of the night because John will still be awake after doing this, probably editing that show as well for us. But I'm not worried about the handcuff. Like, Zeke is still really cheap. I actually did a draft today. I was filling in for our good friend Scott Bogman, who doesn't like to wake up in the morning, Fitz. So I was doing his flex draft for him and got Stevenson. And then much later on, and I mean much later on, like 14th round later on, was able to pick up Zeke just for the insurance, because I do agree with you, and a half-point PPR is going to fall in the end zone. I'm still very confident about Stevenson. I don't think we should downgrade him too much. How do you feel about drafting Stevenson in the third? And how do you feel about, I don't want to say necessity of the handcuff, but any specific targeting of the handcuff of Zeke?
I feel okay about Stevenson in the third. I think
Mhm.
that's about where his value is. I don't think he should handcuff. Handcuffing season is November. Sweater season is handcuffing season. Otherwise, it's opportunity cost. Give yourself more chances to hit on the running back position, which is such a volatile position.
Mhm.
You want to handcuff other people's guys. Then someone else's running back gets hurt. Rather than lock in success at one spot, if someone else's running back gets hurt and you have their handcuff, now you've got like two high quality running backs on your team. So you want to throw those darts and spread things around. No handcuffing.
Okay. Let's get to another question here. This one just from Bob. 10-team PPR league. Which keeper would you choose? Pickens in the 10th or Drake London in the 7th? Again, it's PPR. So from a PPR perspective, I know Pickens is the guy later for the perspective of that, but Drake London is the talent that really intrigues me, especially in the PPR. What do you think, Fitz? He got a ton of target share last year. Where are you going? You going London in 7 or Pickens in 10?
Oh, London for sure. And his target share was basically double what Pickens was last year. I think London was at 28 or 29%.
Mhm.
Pickens was like at 15%, which is a pretty poor target rate. That's my concern about Pickens. Like he has those sexy highlight reel catches. He's amazing at high pointing the ball. He's not so amazing at actually earning targets. And that's a concern. I don't think he had more than 8 targets in a game all season last year, Joe. And I think after week 6, he didn't have more than 6 targets in a game. Plus, he was in next gen stats. I think he was near the bottom of the rankings in yardage after catch, separation, cushion. Like he's just not that great a route runner yet. And maybe
Mm.
he'll get there. But London, another big bodied receiver and just like an alpha target. And I realize people are concerned about the quarterback and the run heaviness of the Atlanta offense. But hopefully, having a big slice of a small pie is still a good thing. And as good as that running game could be with that offensive line and Bijan Robinson, it's really going to set up the play action
Yep,
this year.
exactly.
And the only two guys who are going to get significant targets in that offense are London and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
So
it simplifies the offense for the quarterback, whoever it might be, if it's Ritter or if it's Heineke. If you can run that play action and give them that one specific look out of it, you see a lot of young quarterbacks have success with that who are maybe underwhelming. So that would be a huge win for this offense because they did not have that last year, let's be honest. And I've been watching that quarterback show on Netflix and being reminded once again of how disappointing and sad at times the quarterback play was in Atlanta with Marcus Mariota. Good show on Netflix. You should check that out, everybody. All right, let's go to Joe Navarro, our good friend Joseph, one of our Discord users. And if you want to be like Joseph, go join our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat. It's free. That's where we pull people for our mock drafts. That's where we have fun discussions. Pat was just on there talking to the people because he's the people's champion. So he was answering questions there. He's answering questions here. Tonight, no questions in his house. No one's allowed to ask Pat anything. No kids, no wife, nobody. No more questions. All right, here is a simple one here from Joseph Navarro. Mixon or Gibbs? Who would you rather have? It's a vacuum question. So I guess we'll call it half PPR, so everybody's miserable. Mixon or Gibbs, who would you rather have in 2023?
Joe, if I'm the people's champion, do I get to give people the rock bottom?
You
Is
do.
that
You do.
Oh,
You
that's
get to
my
throw
right?
up.
Okay,
You
outstanding.
wear some sunglasses, maybe throw up the eyebrow a little bit. Can you do the
Um,
eyebrow or no?
I cannot do the eyebrow. I'm not capable of that.
All right, we'll
You're
work on that.
uniquely
We'll work
talented.
on that next offseason. All right.
I got to go with Mixon here, and I know that's not the sexy choice, but yeah, like I just think the workload's going to be more significant. Like
Mhm.
he will get around 20 touches a game, and like as exciting a talent as Gibbs is, he is going to share with David Montgomery. Yes, he's going to be the primary passing down back, and the Lions do like to throw to their backs, But man, I mean, David Montgomery, I would imagine he's still going to be the primary goal line guy. Is going to get a lot of early down work. I just don't see the touch counts for Gibbs approaching the touch counts for Nixon.
Yeah, I agree. I don't love Mixon, but they really didn't bring in any competition. So at this point, it kind of is what it is. And you're right. I mean, he's going to lose Montgomery touchdowns all over the place this year. So I like Gibbs, but I can't really put him past Mixon yet. Not gonna do that. All right, let's get to Edward Gasparian. That's a good name too. I like the good names today, everybody, whether they're real or not. It's good. Keeper league. Would you keep Stevenson for a 6th round or Walker for an 11th rounder? It's another slam dunk for me. I like. It's not that people think I hate Kenneth Walker now. I don't. But Fitz, I'm taking Stevenson. 69 catches last year. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, he is the offense, I feel like. It's not like the Patriots are exciting. He's the weapon. Zeke is an insurance policy. Let's not pretend like all of a sudden, like Ezekiel Elliott from 2017 is walked in the door, because he ain't. I'm still taking Stevenson in the 6th. I know you're going to say Walker in the 11th, aren't you?
I'm leaning that way. I think this is closer, Joe. But I mean, Walker had a really good year last year. It's all how you perceive the Zach Sharp. Do you think there's any chance Charbonnet turns that into a 50-50?
I think there's a real good chance he turns it in. You don't? I mean, we're already off to the races here already, where Walker's dealing with an injury. Charbonnet says he's going to play this week.
True.
If Charbonnet goes out there and, kicks ass, who's to say that all of a sudden it doesn't become a timeshare week 1?
It's a good point. But maybe we're undervaluing the Zeke threat. I don't think we are, but
We are.
So yeah, I mean, I understand your point on this, but I think with the round values, I'm just a little smidge of the needle toward Walker.
Let's try to do that. Let's. You and I are football connoisseurs. We've seen a lot of football in our life. Let's try to remember a time where a running back not named Adrian Peterson left his original organization, went out there and crushed it in the last 10 years. I'm trying to think off the top of my head of the scenarios where that happened. Now, quarterback, we have examples. We have Peyton Manning going to Denver, right? Puts himself in a good situation with a good defense and lots of young talent around him. Got to some Super Bowls, won one. A fellow named Tom Brady did the same thing at the quarterback position not that long ago. Aaron Rodgers trying to be like those guys. But from the running back position, I tried to buy you some time to think of one. Can you think of a guy that left his original organization in year 5, 6, 7? Because that's kind of that range we're in with these guys. Went somewhere else, wasn't named Adrian Peterson, and succeeded in fantasy.
Did you say last 10 years? I think I'd have to stretch it out a little further than that, but it was actually another guy who went to the Patriots, and it was really the last time they had a true featured back. Corey Dillon.
Okay. See?
That popped in mind.
Look at this. This is the OG hour today. That's what you get. The OGs talking about Corey Dillon. But, I mean, think about that. That's kind of crazy. And that was still, I think, holdover to some old NFL habits. The game has changed a lot since that third Patriots win in the Super Bowl. I think we both agree on that one. Yeah. But it's tough. The organizations just move on from these guys. I think Cook's got more left in the tank than Zeke. Would you agree with that?
Yes. My guess would be, yeah. I mean, Zeke has so much mileage on the odometer. You look at it, it's over, 2,200 touches if you include playoff games. And Cook doesn't have quite that much mileage.
No, he does not. Joe L, 12-team, half PPR. You got a quarterback, 2 RB, 2 wide receiver, tight end, and a flex. Keeper decision. 1 keeper. CMC at 107, AJ Brown at 307, or Ken Walker at 17.7. We accept all non-Ken Walker related questions here in this chat too. I just want everybody to know that. So, Fitz, 107 for CMC is a pretty good value. You're giving up your first round pick there. I mean, I love Brown in the 3rd. I guess the question is, if you can keep forever, is this the time to pivot off CMC for that 3rd round value of AJ Brown and start to mitigate your risk? Or you go all in and push the chips, again, all the poker metaphors today, pushing the chips in the middle for CMC one more year at 107.
Yeah, this is a tough one,
it is.
Joe. I'm not.
This one's tougher.
And we haven't seen, we saw CMC be pretty valuable with San Francisco, but it wasn't the same sort of value he had with Carolina. And in games that Elijah Mitchell also played, the touch counts for CMC were nowhere near what they used to be in Carolina. So I don't think I'm giving up my first round pick to keep CMC. That leaves it between our old friend Kenneth Walker and AJ Brown.
It's too bad we're not giving away a Ken Walker jersey on the show today.
I know,
Yeah.
I didn't think, like, I've got kind of a, wishy-washy position on Kenneth Walker. I think he's like a mid-range running back too, but man, like some of the
Come on,
values.
AJ Brown. Let's go. I'm willing to do it. If you need the push, I'll hold your hand. We'll go together. Let's do it. AJ Brown. 307. This is a fringe first rounder. He was wide receiver, what, 4 or 5, depending on your format last year?
Yeah, for me, it's not quite that. To me, he's more like a mid-range second rounder, I think.
I
After
love
what,
AJ Brown.
like
I'm a fan.
the Eagles are still pretty run heavy. We saw Devontae Smith come in last year. Man, I just like Walker's still a really good talent, and to sacrifice a bottom of the draft pick for him.
Well, Joe, I am team AJ Brown at 1307. That's where I'm at. Pat seems like he's leading.
Did you say 1307?
I'm 307. Sorry,
okay, I was going to say at 13 smash.
17-7 is the other one. Sorry about that. 307 for me on AJ Brown. I'm perfectly good. That is a value this year, probably a value next year. And if it's one of these leagues where you can continue to hold them year over year, I don't know what Walker's going to be next year. Maybe they just, maybe Charbonnet takes that job. Maybe Walker gets hurt. I don't know. I have a much better feeling about this year and next year about AJ Brown at that 307 value than I do about CMC at 107 or Ken Walker at 1707. I know it's an extreme value, but like extreme values are nice when you have nothing else to choose from. But when you have elite, and AJ Brown is elite for me. I know Fitzy doesn't like him as much as I do, but there you go. Once again, Joe, you got two sides of the story. Now you get to sides. Choose your own adventure. It's good times here. Again, you got questions. We've got answers. Drop them in the chat. Zach Miles has a question for you. What stack is better, Fitzy? Hurts Brown or Fields and DJ Moore?
Oh, it's Hurts Brown.
Even though they're more expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think so. I mean, I'm willing to pay up for that. I mean, I do like Fields, and he's probably been my most drafted guy. But I mean, you are getting elite production from Hurts and Brown. Take that to the bank. Whereas we think Fields is going to work out as a passer. Like, I'm cautiously optimistic. This is a guy who only cleared 200 passing yards twice last year. So yes, they're probably going to be better. They're probably going to throw a little more with more weapons. But man, I think even at the higher cost, you have to go with the Eagles stack.
Yeah, I think I understand the case for the cheaper one. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you can't get the Hurts one with AJ Brown, it's not a bad consolation prize, I think. Is there internal strife for you having so much Justin Fields as Mr. Green Bay Packer? Does that curdle your cheese curds a little, just a little bit, or what?
I mean, it's funny he's getting the Hurts comp here because that's kind of who I see him as. I think he's the 2023 version of 2022 Jalen Hurts. I don't know if he's going to. I don't know if he's going to go
process that for a second.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Whereas, like Fields was, I think, the quarterback 6 last year, and I think, I don't know what Hurts had been the year before, but I just think there is that sort of room yet for a quantum leap for Fields as a passer, and we saw it at Ohio State. I mean, some of the rainbows that he was hitting Chris Olave and Jackson Smith and Jigba with a couple of years ago. I mean, he is actually a more refined passer than we ever got to see last year.
Agreed.
I believe we're going to see it this year.
Agreed. All right. Now, so all these questions that we're taking, the answers that we're given to, if you don't get your question answered here, or you need extra help in your draft, I can't tell you enough. Use the tools here at Fantasy Pros. And, some of the guys that Fitz is talking about here too, and some of these questions we're taking about, what these drafts look like. If you're using Draft Wizard, you can go ahead with the premium product of Draft Wizard. You can actually go in there and you can set the keepers and then run mock drafts for yourself to get prepared. You can use Draft Intel in order to know the tendencies of what your league mates have done over the years and then draft against those robots. That is an artificial intelligence, folks. That's draft intelligence. That's where it's at. So if you haven't already, download Draft Wizard. Make sure you go to fantasypros.com/draft wizard, sync all your leagues, and utilize the tools to make you better at fantasy football. Look, we're all trying to be better at fantasy football. That's why we're here. Me, Fitz, you, we're all trying to do our best here to be successful. And I think that Draft Wizard has all those tools, but especially if you're in those keeper scenarios too, what a lifesaver it is, because it is hard to figure out what a draft might look like when there's already anywhere from 12 to 36 or more players already off the board. What does that pool look like? How it might fall to you? Draft Wizard, kids. That's what you do. All right, let's get to another one here. Let's go to Anthony Perkins. I can only assume not the actor, because I imagine he's probably no longer with us. But this Anthony Perkins is, and hopefully not a psycho. Let's go, Fantasy Pros. Anthony's excited. I like that. Anthony, thank you for bringing the energy here. 12-man PPR. Get the third pick. Typically, it goes Jefferson, then McCaffery. So if it goes Jefferson and Chase, would you rather have McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, or Cooper Kupp? 12-man PPR. So Jefferson and Chase go off the board. How would you feel about what was left? Would you go CMC, Hill, or Kupp, Fitzy?
I would probably go CMC. Just fewer questions. As long as he stays healthy, yes, maybe Elijah Mitchell could keep him from getting the sort of touch totals that CMC saw in Carolina with the Panthers. But Kupp coming off an injury, dinged up a little bit in camp, and dealing with working with a quarterback who's had some arm issues. So I do like Kupp. I mean, I think he is a top half of the first round guy. And I think Hill is too, as long as he stays healthy. But, the added risk with Tyreek Hill is Tua's health. Like if Tua has another concussion, like he could be out weeks, if not for the entire season.
Look, I feel a little more at ease with Mike White around. I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say out loud, but I just said it. I feel a little bit better this year going in now with that, because going in the offseason, that was a huge question mark. I think in early rankings, the end of the year, it's like, well, what's it going to look like next year? And I saw enough Mike White last year to kind of go, he could be competitive, and goodness knows he didn't have a lot to work with at times with the Jets on the offensive side. It was Garrett Wilson and who knows. But, I would feel comfortable if unfortunate circumstances did arise, that if you had to pivot to Mike White, that Tyreek Hill could maintain value. I'll tell you what, I have Hill over Cooper Kupp. Do you, or are you a Kupp over Hill guy?
I'm a Kupp over Hill guy, actually.
Kupp over Hill guy.
But it's like neck and neck.
Yeah.
Neck and neck.
All right. One of our favorites here is with us for every live stream. Pretty aight. Not all right. Pretty aight. So Fitz, I know you haven't done a lot of these. These are some of our OGs here on the chat. Joey P and Pat, I'm curious about your take on Justin Jefferson versus Chase. I lean Chase. I have the first pick. Thank you. My take on this one, pretty aight, is this. If I have to draft today, I'm taking Jefferson. In a couple weeks, if the Joe Burrow news is getting better, then I'm taking Chase, because I'm just trying to mitigate any risk that I have. And a couple weeks here and there can make a difference between you making it and not. If everyone's healthy and everyone's good and it's September 1st, Chase has that just ever so slight edge, because I think there's a special season in the tank for these guys. But Fitz, are you just easy Justin Jefferson 101 no matter what?
Not easy. It's really close for me. I do have Jefferson 101. Last year, I actually had Chase over Jefferson, and my reasoning was that, Chase was kind of the alpha at LSU more so than Jefferson. I mean, Jefferson had a great year, but I mean, like Chase was the younger guy and was just spectacular. And it was funny. I remember Peter King interviewed Jamar Chase last year in training camp and was asking Chase to compare himself to some other receivers. And he asked him to compare himself to Jefferson. He's like, I'm better than Justin. Just stated it definitively. Then he asked him if he was better than Devontae Adams. And Chase wouldn't say he was a better receiver than Devontae Adams. So it wasn't like Chase was calling himself the greatest receiver on the planet.
Well, that's what you do with your friends. You give them crap. I'm sure if we put Debro and Erickson together, we could ask him that question. In fact, that sounds like a fun thing to do on the next podcast. I might have to think about that one there a little bit. But you're right. It is really close. And, it's kind of blowing in the wind right now because of that Joe Burrow injury. But I do feel like if you go back and dial back to that rookie season of Chase, that we are sitting on, if we could just get Burrow and Chase healthy for 17 games together. I keep saying it everywhere. I did a video on it on our YouTube channel, a possible historic kind of season. Like, I think that's in the range of outcomes, as Debro likes to say.
Yeah, no question. I mean, Joe Burrow is a far superior quarterback to Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
Kirk Cousins has done a good job of floating his receivers value but Burrow is 10 times the quarterback Kirk
Yeah,
Cousins.
and look, and both defenses have problems. So look, Cincinnati lost 2 of its safeties last year. I don't feel all warm and fuzzy about
Right.
them not getting into shootouts this year. Kirk Cousins does have more Coles cash, though. I think we can all agree on that. Lady Bear has a question here. Lady Bear wants to know, I'm keeping Stevenson for the 6th round pick. Should I go wide receiver with my first 4 picks? Well, here's the thing, Lady Bear, and it's a PPR. I guess my thing is this. I don't like to plan it out that hard. If you want to, like, if you got Stevenson and you're like, okay, that's my hero RB, and you want to go hit wide receiver hard, great. But you have to be flexible, right, Pat? Like, that's the thing I always say. Like, in the flex draft, right, just 2 weeks ago, I had a plan. I was going to take quarterback first in that super flex league. I was the number 2 pick. I was going to take Hurts, but Mahomes fell to me after Hurts went 1. So I said, okay, sure, I'll take Mahomes. I was going to go double up wide receiver. I took A.J. Brown. Then when it came back to me, Nick Chubb was still on the board. And there was no way I was letting him get past me in a half-point PPR. I think you have to be flexible. I can understand wanting to go heavy wide receiver, Pat, but isn't it a better practice for Lady Bear and everybody else listening to maybe be a little bit more disciplined in that sense and open-minded?
Yeah, I'm with you, Joe, and Lady Bear. I mean, if you have to start 3 wide receivers, it's PPR. I would totally understand if things worked out well that you would come out firing at the wide receiver position since you already have a pretty good back kept. But I think if you asked any of the best fantasy football analysts or most successful high stakes players, I don't think any of them would ever say they go in plotting to draft a particular position in a particular round.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not how it works because drafts are unpredictable. And, sometimes the value is not at the position you thought you were going to be drafting in a particular round.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of high stakes, by the way, fantasypros.com/championship. We've got an FFPC big event going on here. Somebody's going to win $1 million. Some other people are going to win free premium upgrades to betting pros, to fantasy pros. And if you use that promo code fantasy pros, guess what? You get a discount off your buy-in. So go to fantasypros.com/championship FFPC and turn up the high stakes. You're smart. You watch this channel. Go join, go win $1 million. And then give Pat 10% and me 15 because I'm the one that told you about it. All right, Andrew McNardy, where do you take Darren Waller? This is an interesting question here. Would you rather be strong at running back 2 or high-end wide receiver 3 or to go for Darren Waller? To be honest with you, Pat, I'm making sure I lock in an RB2 before I'm chasing Darren Waller. Then the question is, do you want to lock in a wide receiver 3 most likely, that grouping of guys over the risk reward of Darren Waller? I know Erickson, or should I say Derrickson, because both of those guys are very big into Darren Waller. Where are you at with Waller? Because I don't know if we've had this conversation yet, you and I.
I am nowhere near as enthusiastic as
Me
Derrickson.
neither.
Good, Joe. We can
See, look at that.
commiserate.
I mean, he's never on the field, Patty. Like,
Right.
he's just never there. I mean, he's an interesting late dart throw at tight end because the replacement value in a 12-team league, you can find some other guys to stream. If it doesn't work out, if it does, great, you win. You put yourself in a good spot. But I'm not reaching on him, Pat. I mean, let's talk some sense into the kids out there.
I can't remember if it was 14 or 15 games that he's missed over the last 2 years. And now he's on the wrong side of 30. And yes, if he can somehow manage to stay healthy for a full season, he does have a shot to lead the Giants in targets because they have sort of an ambiguous wide receiver situation. But the Giants are probably not going to be that pass heavy a team. They really weren't last year. I mean, Daniel Jones, he finished as a low end QB1 because of his running, not because of his passing. So I don't see it. He's just not a guy I'm that interested in a part of the draft where there's still a lot of decent running backs and wide receivers available.
All right, Mike Clark's got a question. Which backfield is better taking a shot on at cost? This is a great question. Everybody listen up for this. Is it the Bears or the Dolphins? So you got A-Chain, who's fast and fun. You got Mostert, who's always hurt, and Jeffrey Wilson, who's usually, hurt at some point as well. All of which, I don't think anybody's carrying the full workload. Then you got Khalil Herbert, who theoretically could carry the full workload. You got Deonta Foreman, who has shown you in the last couple of years that he's up to the task. And then Roshan Johnson, who's probably my favorite of all 3 of those guys by far in terms of long-term ability and maybe second half ability, but at cost is the key here. So which backfield at which cost are you dipping your toes in?
Yeah, boy, I wish we could pick just both and get Herbert and A-Chain because I love both of those guys. But
So you're going Herbert and H. Okay, that's the pairing. Okay, why? Why those two?
well, I mean, it's fun. Like I've actually been drafting more of Jeff Wilson lately than A-Chain just because A-Chain has been harder to acquire. Like he's starting to,
Mm.
a lot of other people like him as much as I have. And I'm mad about that, Joe, because I was watching Texas A&M games last fall just to watch A-Chain because the rest of that team was sort of hot garbage. Sorry, Aggies fans. But now I think Herbert has the firmest grasp on a job of anyone in either of those backfields. And that's kind of the guy I want. A lot of people might see it as a three-way mess, but I kind of think that Foreman and Johnson might be slightly redundant talents, and Herbert gives them something that those other guys don't, namely speed and big play capability and, pass
Pat's
catch.
probably right. By the way, I think Pat's right. I think Herbert probably at cost, A Chain at current cost because A Chain's gonna be fun. Like especially if
Oh,
you
yeah.
could, if he's a luxury item for your roster, he's fun. Let's go to let's see, JC Rich 100. Hey Joe, who would you take at the 110 spot? Diggs or Bijan in a full PPR? Love the show. Thanks, man. Look, I love me some Bijan, so I'm gonna go lock in Bijan and if I don't get Diggs around the turn, I'll take AJ Brown. I'll take CD Lamb. I'm good. I'm a little concerned. You want to talk about turning the tires? 160 targets 3 years in a row for a guy entering his 9th season, Fitzy. That is bells and whistles to me, where I'm just a little afraid of that dude because I've seen it too much in the past with these guys. Once they hit 30, 31 years old, been in the league a decade, you see sometimes it happens fast. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen with Diggs. I'm just saying I don't need to see it. I would take Bijan if he was there, but Diggs is a nice consolation prize. I want your thoughts on this one too as we go to the next question.
I'm with you. Totally team Bijan here, Joe.
Yeah, let's
I
go.
think he
Hook
is
'em
so
horns.
special. He is
He
so
is
special, man. Just an
so good.
extraordinary player. No weaknesses in his game
Nope.
and going to a crazy run heavy team that is going to work him hard. I just put a bet down on him to win the rushing title. So,
Oh, I like that one. I've got
yeah.
money on him at Rookie of the Year at 3-1. And here's a kicker for you. Just did a BP show yesterday, Betting Pros podcast. Go subscribe to that channel too, because I'm going to be hosting the NFL show there all season long. It's going to be amaze balls. We're going to have great time there. We're going to win money too. But Pat, I had Chris Raybon on 2 weeks ago. I had Reebs on, our good friend Rich Rebar yesterday. Both those guys and myself have already made investments in the Falcons to win that division. I feel much better about my investment now than those two guys because those dudes are sharp. If those guys are on it, I feel pretty good. Look at that Falcons plus 280 on Betting Pros. Go download that app too. Chris Fong and Brian Wild. Good questions here. Let's get to Brian's first. How does the draft strategy differ between 2 wide receiver versus 3 wide receiver PPR leagues? I did one last night, and Burks was my wide receiver 3 because I decided to grab Stevenson as my third RB flex over Higgins. This is one that's happening a lot more, Pat, where you're getting, 2 RB, 2 wide receiver, and then more flex spots to open things up. To me, that just means best player on the board. But in PPR, I want receivers. How about you?
Oh, Joe, so many people ask me draft questions and don't specify whether it's 2 or 3 wide receivers, and I have to ask them before I can answer, how many wide
Mhm.
receivers are you required to start? It's the single biggest difference maker in terms of your settings for draft strategy. If you have to start 3 wide receivers, I do not want to be weaker than average at wide receiver. Like I'm going to pound the wide receiver position early, and I want my third receiver to be better than a lot of people's second receiver. I want like to
Yep.
be able to flex a good fourth receiver if possible. So I mean, I just referred to it earlier in the flex draft I'm doing right now. I'm opening tight end and then 4 wide receivers because I think we have to start 3 in that one. And yeah, like I do not want to
Yep.
get caught short at that position
No.
when you can start. Think about it, Joe. If you start 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a flex, you could flex a 4th receiver and have that wide receiver be half of your non-kicker defense starters. So I want strength at that position.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Let's go to another here. Chris Fong. I have 3 keepers: Ridley, Pitts, Swift. 4th round is our first round after keepers. I select 4th overall. Should I target Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, or best available wide receiver or running back? So if you got Ridley, you got Pitts, and DeAndre Swift. This is a tricky one here. I mean, look, I don't mind having Lamar, Josh Allen. I mean, I think I would still go Josh Allen, just a little bit safer investment. But would you pivot off the quarterbacks there? I imagine Mahomes is probably kept, I would think, and probably Hurts too from the sound of this question. But or BPA on the wide receiver RB. Where do you fall?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I would recommend Chris take a look at like our overall rankings and my overall rankings to see like what's available and whether I have those guys ranked ahead of those quarterbacks. And I'm actually a big Lamar guy. I do have Allen ranked higher, but love Lamar too. But man, there are probably going to be some pretty decent wide receivers and running backs still there. So I'm guessing that there will probably be wide receivers or running backs ranked ahead of those two quarterbacks when he picks.
Now, one wide receiver everybody's going to want to go after this year is Jackson Smith-Njigba. And guess what, folks? We're giving away a Jackson Smith-Njigba autographed jersey. It's right there for you. All you have to do to win is like the stream, subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, click that little bell till it goes ding, comment below with how much you love Fitzy's BP hat, how much you like my Bengals t-shirt I'm wearing today. Whatever you got, drop the comment below here. Keep it clean, folks. And then, again, don't forget to click that bell till it goes ding, because when you do, you'll know if you won that big jersey right there. We're giving away free stuff, and at some point, we're going to announce the big winner. Why not you? Could be you. All right, let's get to some more of these questions. We'll do some rapid fire here. Jeff wants to know, Jeff Gilman, thoughts on Rachaad White this year in a PPR redraft?
Like him a lot. It seems like they're not going to sign anyone, or it looks that way. Maybe they do, but I love that White was a prolific pass catcher last year. And after a lot of these young guys hadn't fired for them for a long time, they felt comfortable leaving him in the game with Tom Brady. So they felt good with his pass blocking. They needed to not get Brady killed, and his pass catching. And, I think he's got some upside as a runner too. I like him a lot.
All right, let's go to Overcome. Garrett Wilson or Amon-Ra St. Brown? This is a tough one. This is real tight. I keep making the case for Amon-Ra because the first 6 weeks are just going to be so Amon-Ra heavy, and the first 6 weeks of the Jets schedule is kind of rough. What are your thoughts, though? Wilson or Amon-Ra?
Same, Joe. Amon-Ra. I think I've got him either one or two spots higher, and you mentioned it while
I think
Jameson
that's the
Williams
breaker, right?
Yeah, has the gambling suspension. Like, get off to a fast start with Amon-Ra. He is going to be a target monster in those early weeks.
Darren Deckard, keeping Pollard. I have the number one pick in a 10-team draft. Who should I take at 1? Well, Darren, that's hard to know because we don't know who's out there. My answer to you is take the best available player. Always the best available. The draft is for taking talent. You will find other spots to, you'll fill in guys on the waiver wire. You'll make trades. Get talent. Get as much talent as you possibly can. That's what you want to do. I feel like in Billy Madison, when he's shaking that kid and he's like, stay here as long as you can. Draft all the talent you possibly can. Cherish it. Andrew Bogdan, no Walker question. Thank God, Andrew. I appreciate you. Teams, 2 quarterback PPR, 1 keeper. Keep Justin Herbert and draft Jamar Chase, or keep Chubb and draft Lamar. These are champagne problems here for Andrew. Where do you go? Herbert and Chase or Chubb and Lamar?
Herbert and Chase.
I agree. Herbert and Chase. Fun stuff there. All right, let's go to Ahmad. I'm playing keepers. Where can I grab Amon-Ra in the 7th? Where I can grab Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 7th round or Fields in the 10th? Which guy do you take, Fitz?
Amon-Ra. Yeah, I mean, Amon-Ra is almost borderline first-round value for me, whereas Fields is a guy, I've drafted in the 5th round, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, Amon-Ra for sure.
Brett Foster, Dalvin Cook, or Alvin Kamara? My answer is both, because I think you get both at a discount. You play Dalvin for a couple weeks. You play Alvin when Dalvin... Yeah, it's the Alvin and Dalvin show. I mean, I don't know who the third chipmunk is, but we're going to find out. What I want you to do is draft both these guys because you're coming at a discount. Go heavy wide receiver, and then trade Dalvin Cook to the person who has Breece Hall is freaking out after the Jets start 2-5. Because after they go 2-5, the schedule gets much easier. Let's go to Sean Sternisha. That's a fun one. You got to see in season some of the names, Fitz. Sometimes they're a little rough on me, some of these names. So I got to say, Sean Sternisha. We're going to get Sean here. Thanks for doing this. You're welcome, Sean. We appreciate you hanging out with us, man. PPR, would you rather keep Christian Watson in the 15th or Chris Olave in the 9th?
Ooh, tricky one. I've got Olave ranked, I believe, wide receiver 11. Really like him. I've got Watson about wide receiver. Yeah, I've got Watson maybe wide receiver 19. And almost similar types of receivers. I think I'd take the slightly later value with Watson. What about you, Joe? It seems like you are more.
You know me. I like my premium dudes. Here's the thing. I know what I'm getting with Derek Carr. I know what it is. I know what it's not going to be. I don't know what I'm getting with Jordan Love.
True.
And I can't risk that no matter how good the discount is. I want as sure of a thing as I can get at the best discount I get.
So
So
give me a number per percent. What are the percentage odds that Watson has a better season than Olave?
probably 10%. I mean, it would have to be really, it would have to, because that would mean Michael Thomas came back and was elite again. And and Chris Olave still wasn't Chris Olave. Olave was spectacular last year with
Oh yeah, for
Andy
sure.
Dalton and Taysom Hill, and I don't know. I think our producer John played quarterback in Week 12. It was crazy, what that guy had to deal with. But Sean, keep Olave. I mean, that's a huge discount, round 9 on that dude. And I love this. I'm finding out that Pat doesn't like Waller. I don't like Waller. I'm finding out he loves Olave. I love Olave. This is a good time. Let's go to the Rogan Panthers. I trust and take Christian Kirk way before I would ever take Calvin Ridley. Am I crazy? I don't know if you're crazy, Pat. You think he's crazy for that? Or do you think you're just missing out on upside?
I thought about that early in the offseason, and I was kind of with him, but the reports about how Ridley has been playing have just been like glowing. And then the other night in the preseason, we saw that in 2 wide receiver sets when the starters were playing, Zay
Yeah,
Jones was on the field
right.
ahead of Christian
The
Kirk. And
same thing Erickson just said on the show I just recorded.
yeah,
The same
Christian
thing,
Kirk
man.
only played in the slot in 3 receiver sets. That is not a good sign. So you got to, Ridley is the better guy to have for sure.
Hardy Ward. Who should I keep, Tua or Khalil Herbert?
Oh,
This isn't a vacuum, so Tua is.
yeah, I mean, I think Herbert because like if it's a 12-team league, I mean, Tua is like a low end starter in a 12
What if
team.
it's a 14-team league? Does that change your opinion at all?
Yeah, that might. But then again, in a 14-team league, like a
And Khalil
valuable
Herbert,
running
right?
back. Yeah, I'm
Either
still
way.
leaning Herbert.
All right, let's go to Sean Nylapant. I think those are the pants that Fitzy wore in the 80s when his mom used to dress in the Nyla pants. Again, Pat, we're gonna take you to get back to school shop and get you some Nyla pants, and I'll get you a nice plaid shirt. All right, 12-team PPR. Keep CMC in the 1st or Pollard in the 9th. That's interesting. Drafting from the 10th spot overall. Thanks, Sean. What do you think? CMC in the 1st or Pollard in the 9th?
Oh, you got to go Pollard. I
There
mean,
you
yeah,
go.
CMC is an early first round guy, but Pollard, you can make a case for him being a late first round guy.
Shadow limes, which you got to watch out for. They're, you get sometimes those lemons, they hide in the darkness, but it's the shadow limes that are very dangerous, especially this time of year. Is it bad to have Adams and Jacobs on the same team? That's a great question, actually.
Man, I mean, it's going to be a large percentage of production for the Raiders going to those 2 guys. So, I don't think it's terrible, but it's, I do
I
have
don't
this.
think it's ideal, Pat.
No, I've got a bad vibe on the Raiders this year. I feel like the mutiny that it almost felt like was coming late last year under Josh McDaniels. I think we could get that mutiny this year.
I don't think you're far off. I would say this. There's duos that I like. If I'm going to have investment in a team, what does our friend Matt Harmon say? Look for the good offensive ecosystems. That's. I don't know if the Raiders are a good offensive ecosystem. Zach Zaraba needs your expertise. 14-team PPR league with 1 keeper. Should I keep Breece Hall in round 2, Rhamondre in round 6, or Olave in round 7? Love this show. Thanks, Zach. We love you too, man. All right, so what do you want to do here? Breece in the 2nd, Rhamondre in the 6th, or Olave in the 7th?
Olave, Joe. I
Yes.
mean, I'm
Let's
in
go.
a vacuum. I'm drafting Olave over Rhamondre. So yes,
There you go.
Olave.
I wish my name was Rhamondre. My name's just Joe. It's not really as exciting. Alex Matt Miller. This is the 2nd year in a PPR league. Is there a good draft strategy as far as positions go? Look, Alex, I think the best advice that I can give you on this is, we do all these mock draft shows. You could see some of the different rosters. You could take a look at them. I would say run a bunch of mock drafts on the simulator and get a feel for what those teams look like. And if you don't like the team as you're drafting it, you can back out picks and do it again and keep doing it till you get a sense of what you like the roster construction to be. Again, it's about being flexible and being prepared. If you're both of those things, you'll have success. But you can't necessarily, I'm going to go and do this or what the draft strategy is, because every draft is like a snowflake. They're all different. So my best advice to you is, in PPR leagues, you're leaning wide receivers. At least I am. If you get that hero RB at a good cost, okay, cool. But run simulations so you can get the feel of what it might be. So go do that. Let's get to another one here. Russ Shaw, 14-team half PPR. I have pick number 14. Would you keep Derrick Henry or A.J. Brown at 14 or redraft?
AJ Brown. I would
A.J. Brown.
keep AJ Brown.
Okay, let's do P-Bud, Bijan or Chubb? It's Bijan for me, and I'm the president of the Chubb Club, but I got to keep it real.
Yeah, I've got Bijan running back 2, and I think I've got Chubb 4 or 5.
Nolan's YouTube TV. It's YT TV. And that's the other thing too, because everybody knows, like, because I'm an old guy, they put all these abbreviations for things and it hurts my head sometimes, especially in season. So I've gotten really good at this, Pat. I just want you to know it's taken me a couple years, but I know everybody's cool little things now. Superflex 10 man, Mahomes at the 2. Would you do that? I'm okay with that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in
Yeah.
a super flex, he's a top 2. It's all how you order the top 3 quarterbacks. But yeah, he's my one.
I just drafted from the 2 and the 12 man Superflex, and Mahomes fell to me at 2. Very happy to do that. I was taking quarterback no matter what there, because even in a 10-team league, again, the supply and demand of wide receivers is really good. So that's going to come back to you. Running back's going to come back to you. Elite quarterbacks will not. That's the one thing for sure that will not be on the board when it comes back to you. You'd be surprised at some of the talent that makes it back all the way, especially in that short of a league there. Let's go to TJ Pollins in a 6-point touchdown league with 1 QB, 2 wide, 2 RB, a tight end, a flex. Would you go heavy RB for the touchdowns in a 6-point touchdown league? Pat, whenever people talk about the whole 6-point touchdown leagues and stuff like that, for QBs, I always feel like the same thing, which is like, all it does is it bumps up some of the guys that are those standalone, quarterbacks that sit in the pocket, which is nice to do a little bit, but they're still not the elite guys who run around, right?
Right. I mean, the top quarterbacks might average in the low 30s for touchdowns in a year, and these, average starting quarterbacks average in the mid 20s. So you're talking about a 7 or 6 touchdown gap in a season, and that's like 12 points, less than 1 a week. So it's not that big a deal.
All right, let's get to one more here from Holden Davis, which is a great name. That sounds like all right. It's either a minor league baseball player from yesteryear, or I would say like a character from Young and the Restless, back when soap operas were still around. Holden Davis wants to know, in a dynasty startup, at what point are you considering Kyler a good value? That's a great question. And of course, Fitz is the host with Scott Bogman of our Dynasty podcast. In case you didn't know that, it's here on the YouTube channel, which we want you to subscribe to. Bada bing, you see the little YouTube thing next to my fancy bald head there. So go click that subscribe button. But in Dynasty, especially most of them being Superflex nowadays, what do you do with Kyler?
Yeah, I'm going to answer this like it is a super flex, because people should be playing Dynasty super flex. If it's one QB, I don't know, somewhere near the end of the draft, because quarterbacks aren't as important. But in super flex, man, like you see him drop to like the 4th now, and I really like the value of him in the 4th if you can get him there. I know like some Cardinals fans aren't fond of Kyler, and it's not always a smooth ride if you watch him play, but man, Joe, I've got him on my most important dynasty team. And sometimes he'll go into halftime with like 4.5 points. And you're like, oh God, Kyler's having a bad day. And then he winds up with 23. And you're like, how did that happen? Like, he can pile up points in a hurry, man, with his arm and legs. And even if the Cardinals are successful in this tanking campaign they are about to embark on and draft Caleb Williams, Kyler's going to be a starter somewhere else next year.
Like, probably a starter for a team that's going to be better quicker. Like, I imagine he would be a really interesting target for a team that is in the middle, that's looking to make a splash and a move. So you're right on that end for sure. He's at a value, yes, but don't anticipate him helping you this year for sure, because that team is dreadful. Our team is great, though, especially shout out to John running the live stream today. Yeah, buddy. Doing a great job here. So John going to be with us running a lot of the live streams this year. So everybody give a shout out to John in the comments below, because when you comment below and you subscribe and you click the bell, you can win that Jackson Smith and Jigba jersey. And don't forget to download Draft Wizard. Go to fantasypros.com/draftwizard2. Run your mock drafts. Get into mock draft rooms. Go join our Discord with that crazy mock draft channel where they're mock drafting every 5 seconds. Those people are nuts. I love them. They're degenerates. They're my favorite people in the world. And you could be one of the people that come on the shows with us too. And look, we're just getting started here. We're going to do a lot more of these Q&As, a lot more live stuff. We got short forms. We've got long forms. We got the podcast. We got everything here for you. And of course, always happy to chat with you all. So I want everybody out there to have a great day. Go enjoy the games this weekend. Don't overrate preseason too much. And of course, make sure you're with us all season long. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game